has built and run technology operations for some of the largest enterprises in the world. Mr. Sudhir Pakhare.
I would say most overhyped technology trend right now is the idea that AI is going to magically solve every business problem overnight.
One word for next decade of enterprise IT.
This function, remote management center, at that point of time was running in losses. It was early days, right? I mean, we were running ahead of time, I would say, that we were monitoring and managing some of the infrastructure of global clients.
Hey everyone, welcome back to FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Charu Mehra. My guest today has been in the IT business for over 3 decades, long enough to have started his career when computers still came with manuals you actually read. From digital equipment in the early 90s through Wipro, Microlan, and over 11 years as a vice president at Accenture. He has built and run technology operations for some of the largest enterprises in the world. He has led global teams for more than 600 people, managed budgets north of $25 million, and brought a delivery unit out of losses into profit. Joining us today is Mr. Sudhir Pakhare, IT leader, infrastructure veteran, and someone who has seen the industry go through every shift it has ever had. Mr. Sudhir, welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you here. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for your warm welcome and for having me on this podcast. It's my pleasure to be part of this conversation. I truly appreciate the opportunity to share my insights, and I'm looking forward for more engaging and meaningful discussions. I guess today there are very few people who can talk about VAX VMS and your AI in one sentence. I'm fortunate to be one amongst them. I'm really excited and looking forward for meaningful discussions. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. So with that, let's move on to our first segment, which is 30 years and counting. My first question to you, sir, is this. So you started your career working on VAX systems and DEC Alpha servers in 1991. Today, everyone is talking about cloud and AI. If you could sit your 1991 self down and tell him one thing about where the industry was going to go, what would you say to him?
Okay, so let me start with some context with respect to the situation that time. I when I was working for when I started my career with digital, I was in Pune, and some of my client base, if you look at, like, I mean, where likes of Bajaj Auto, uh, Telco, Alpha Level, Kalyani Steels, Bharat Forge, uh, Forbes Marshall, many of these manufacturing companies were our clients, and
Right.
they were using VAX VMS system for business critical operations. For example, if I have to talk about Bajaj Auto Akodi plant, which is in Pune, was also they also had one plant in Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, which is erstwhile Aurangabad, and both units were connected, both the plants were connected, and within the plant, if you look at the different shops, which is like assembly line, then your chassis painting, every unit was interconnected till the
Right.
order processing and all. So they used to use this VAX 8800, which was a very high end digital system, and they used to use this for business critical operations. What I'm trying to say, and similar was many of our customers. The criticality was very high because anything which is cracked in between, some portion not working, it could be due to network, it could be because of computing, things
Right.
would come to standstill. That used to be the situation from a customer point of view. And on
Right.
infrastructure, as we know today, I can reach anyone calling them over mobile and so on. Whereas at that point of time, there were hardly any such infrastructure or hardly any such opportunities available where we can reach people easily. It used to be
Right.
the landlines. We were provided landlines. For critical customers, we used to have spares available with them, and our logistics function used to be open 24 cross 7. So that's to set up the criticality of the customer and
Mhm.
criticality of their business operations and the
Right.
situations it was at that point of time. Um, lot has changed over a period of time.
Right.
That's what we have already seen. Uh, See, I would probably tell in 1991 self this: the hardware will keep getting smaller, getting faster, and getting cheaper. But the real revolution would be connectivity and intelligence.
Right.
Back then, we were just focused on systems, servers, infrastructure. What none of us truly imagined was how deeply these technologies would be woven to our day to day life. That is
Mhm.
what we could not imagine at that point of time. Um, the shift is not only from wax systems to cloud computing, but when you start looking at it, it is also about who's owning the computing power, right? It would be
Mhm.
from owning the computing power, elasticity that is provided by cloud today, and two, instantly accessing the systems from anywhere. This is the
Right.
change that we have seen. The shift, and along with this, we are now into age of AI, where this transformation, where we are not only looking at computers for processing the instructions, but they are also beginning to understand the patterns. They have started beginning to understand the language and decision making.
Mhm.
At some in those days, all this looked like a science fiction, I would say.
Right. 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 Wonderful, sir. That was such a beautiful way to start there. I believe there aren't many people who can talk about wax systems and AI in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And the fact that you stayed curious through all of it is, I think, half the reason you're still doing this work. So,
Yeah.
congratulations on having that wonderful journey so far, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to add something to what I said. I've talked about what has changed, what was appearing from that time, like in 1919, how it appeared. But
Right.
some things which have not changed at all
Mhm.
is, like, I mean, stay curious, keep learning, and never get attached to a single technology. Because what happens in this industry, the adaptability always outlasts the expertise.
Wonderful, wonderful, sir. And as I said, it was your curiosity that took you so far in this field. So
Thank
wonderful,
you.
sir. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that with us.
Thank you.
Okay. So 30 years across some of India's biggest IT organizations means you've been at the center of some significant transformations. Which turnaround story from your career would you say defines you the most, and what did it actually take to make it happen?
Okay. So a lot of critical stories that I can share about, but some of these turnaround stories, let me just pick up few from top of my head. One was when I was working for Microland. It was around 2005, and I was with promotion. I took over as remote management center AGM. That was my post, and the goal given to me was very very clear. This function, remote management center, at that point of time was running in losses. It was early days, right? I mean, we were running ahead of time, I would say, that we were monitoring and managing some of the infrastructure of global clients sitting
Mhm,
from offshore. This
mhm.
I'm talking about 2005 and
Right.
2004, 2005. See, some good things. I mean, of course, my very very clear charter was take this back from minus 40% contribution to back to profitability. This was something which was given to me. I had similar opportunity in Accenture in 2008-9. I would talk about that
Right.
also.
Right.
But while I talk about this, some things were very, 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 very common, and
Mhm.
some things were actually what I felt and what I did to overcome those situations was essentially picked up picked up the P&L statement. I was good at business finance. I'm still good at business finance and also on personal finance. So I picked up the started analyzing the financial reports and
Mhm.
started looking at where are we spending most of our where is most of my cost getting consumed and what is the
Mhm.
percentage of it. And what we realized is in being in service industry, it was obviously the people is where we were spending most of our cost. And
Right.
in simple terms, if I have to talk about few strategies that I adopted at that point of time, which I repeated later on as well, is one, get people to deliver more. Simple,
Right.
simple thing, get people to deliver more. It meant that, like, I mean, making like whatever people are doing today, automate some of those tasks, reduce
Mhm.
the load on them, right?
Mhm.
We also came up with self-help, which was in second case in Accenture. I would talk about that later. But get people to deliver more was a simple strategy. The second strategy was get cost effective people to deliver. And that is where we started taking freshers
Right.
rather than taking lateral hires and training them extensively, make them ready and get them to deliver some of our services, right? And
Mhm.
constantly pushing down, like, I mean, whatever expert is able to do today, my specialists are able to do, push it down to level two by through, like, I mean, one is knowledge base that was implemented extensively.
Right.
Some tasks were pushed down such that we could reduce the costs, increase the
Mhm.
productivity through automation. And the third one, which is very interesting, which I realized during that time, was volume linked margins. So
Mhm.
I'm talking about the three simple strategies, that is get cost effective people to deliver, get people to deliver more, and volume
Right.
linked margin. When I'm talking about this volume linked margin, as I mentioned, in remote management center, we had about 20, close to 20 customers at that point of time.
Right.
And the kind of services we were providing was eyes on glass service. That means we were monitoring the client networks sitting in offshore, right, for the global
Mhm.
clients.
Mhm.
And we were also, like, I mean, providing in certain cases only level 1 support to the clients, and in certain cases level 2 and level 3. And that means if there is any infrastructure failure for customer, we would
Right.
access their infrastructure sitting over here through site to site secured VPN connection, and fix their problems. That those were the type of services that we were providing. And one
Right.
area where I felt is that, like, I mean, we already have established infrastructure and 24 cross 7 capability to deliver services for which we were delivering for this close to 20 clients. And even another 20-25 clients were added for eyes on glass service, that is monitoring service, and level 1 services, which is we do diagnosis and activate the client level 2 services from the client organization. Because what used to
Right.
happen at that point of time is the clients, like, I mean, CIOs were worried about providing offshore connectivity. They were basically security concerns, um,
Mhm.
access providing access to offshore team. Those used to be some of the concerns, and because of which the customer, some of our customers used to tell us, you provide me eyes on glass service. If anything goes wrong in my infrastructure, anything goes down, um, you do level 1 diagnosis, only
Mhm.
diagnosis. You will not touch my router, but you will call my engineer and inform him, such that they take over fixing the issue.
Right.
Now, this is one service which we said monitoring, that is eyes on glass service and L1 service. Even if I add another 30 customers, I'm not going to add my costs. And this is where we started working with our management and sales team that go ahead, give 25%, 30% discount, get more and more customer engaged for these services. It was a
Mm-hmm.
win-win. It was win-win for customers. They were getting the services at lower cost. For me, from an operation perspective, there was no increase in the cost at all. And my sales guys were very happy because they were gaining the incentives at the same time. It was easier for them to get the deals
Right.
cracked, right?
Right.
So it was a win-win situation, and that's how we did it. This turnaround, it took 3 to 4 quarters to do this, but after 1 year we were 35% plus on positive side through this
Wow.
particular approach and strategies that we used.
Wow. Wonderful. So, I feel that this a transformation at that scale, you knew exactly which lever to pull first. And that is an instinct what separates a good IT leader from a great one. So, kudos on that success, sir.
Thank you.
There's a number on your resume I want to come back to. Customer
Sure.
satisfaction went from 63% to 86% under your leadership. That
Yeah.
is not a small jump.
Yeah.
Uh, what changes in a delivery organization when satisfaction lifts that much for both the client and inside the team?
Certainly. I think great question. Um, and this was around 2008, 2009 when I was part of Accenture,
Yes.
and I was responsible for IT for Bangalore facilities. In fact, we used to have our 7 offices in Accenture offices in Bangalore, and more than
Right.
50% of people working over here. And I had this opportunity to lead this
Mhm.
initiative for across the country. And and it so happened, like, I mean, when customers satisfaction survey was conducted, the survey
Right.
came up with a lot of feedback, and the
Mhm.
score, a baseline score of about 80%. Some,
Right.
like, I mean, some of these things, it was really an interesting assignment for me, interesting task for me. And I took it as a project where I would deep dive into understanding what are various current issues from, like, I mean, the IT service provider perspective, from clients who were our internal clients, executives, those were providing feedbacks, and also from technology perspective. So we did few changes. I mean, our first thing was analyzing the data which was coming out of, one is the CSAT survey, where it established the score of 63% and
Right.
pointed out few issues which were associated with the way we were working probably at that point of
Mhm.
time, right? Essentially, what used to happen is many of the executives would travel from one facility to another facility. And for them, the biggest challenge used to be configuring their printers, right, to take printouts,
Right.
right,
Right.
and reaching the escalation point. Those
Mhm.
Some of those used to be, like, I mean, issues. Apart from that, like, I mean, one common issue which was identified during that time was, um,
Mhm.
like, I mean, the desktop engineer who is
Right.
gone to fix the problem would say this is a server issue, and he would close the ticket and ask the client to reopen the ticket for server team.
Right.
Now,
Right.
this used to be some of the things which created dissatisfaction amongst the customer,
Mhm.
right? These were some parts. Also, like, I mean, I realized, if I was to put a mathematical expression for customer satisfaction, I would say it is CSAT is equal to, that is, customer satisfaction is equal to perception minus expectation. That's a
Right.
mathematical expression I have always learnt about, and I have always believed that what is important, like in delivery, is not
Right.
just the delivery performance, but also how you are perceived to be delivering, and the expectations of customers, and we have to work on some of these also. So
Right.
apart from analyzing and putting some action plans were like, I mean, fix some of the repeat issues. The engineers knew the solutions for these issues, and they quickly, when engineers were given this problem, they used to go and fix the incident, but the underlying cause is never resolved, and the incidents would reappear later point of time, causing dissatisfaction amongst the user. So we picked up
Mm-hmm.
these repeat incidents, fixed them permanently. We did some
Right.
changes in the way we were working in terms of processes, like wherein once the incident is raised for a desktop engineer, he would in turn raise, like, I mean, we will not ask the user to create an incident for network or for server. This was all handled internally. So we
Mm-hmm.
did that
Mm-hmm.
process change with linking the child incident, such that once you fix the issue, you close one incident for the user, and
Right.
you track till the closure, rather than closing saying that it is not my issue and now you have to go to somebody else. So
Right.
these were some aspects which were done. And also, like, I mean, as I mentioned, from this mathematical expression of CSAT, which is perception and expectation. We did a lot of work to manage the perceptions as well as the expectations of our users and clients.
Right.
What it meant was, like, I mean, what it meant was, like, I mean, we did something called IT camps, which were conducted in our cafeterias,
Mm-hmm.
and we did a lot of campaigning around that, and
Right.
we started educating the users, say, to what are our, like, SLAs, what are our service level, how are we performing
Mm-hmm.
against our service levels, what is the trend of last 12 months, such that we
Right.
manage their perception, and we also manage to some extent their expectation, because at times people would expect that I am an executive, I am business head, I'm calling the IT guy and he has not reached me in the last 30 minutes. So it helped us, these IT camps helped us to manage the perception and expectation. And what came up, like, I mean, through this, and like we did some programs internally for our teams also, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
taking the ownership. When things come to you, take ownership of it. Right? Empathy. This was something which was missing and which was realized.
Right.
Responsiveness and accuracy of information. At times I used to see, majority of the times, the user would raise a ticket saying that laptop not working, and the engineer would fix the problem and just update on the ticket used to be the issue resolved.
Hmm.
Simple. So we said, no, this is not going to help. You need to call out what was the issue, what did you do to fix the problem. So
Right.
some of
Right.
these, like, I mean, so, and over a period of time, what happened? Some of these things which I talked about became part of our awareness programs and became service standards. That is, take
Mm-hmm.
ownership, empathy, accuracy of information, and responsiveness. We used to call it
Wow.
TEAR. Take
AR.
ownership, empathy, accuracy of information, and responsiveness.
Mm,
These
responsive.
became service standards, not only for internal IT, but for our clients also. All are
Mm-hmm.
coupled with the perception management and expectation management through effective governance.
Right.
That was the entire thing which helped us change this from 63 to 84% in less than a year.
Wow. That is a wonderful story, sir. That's a 23-point swing, and most leaders would settle for half of it. Also, what I'm taking away is that satisfaction is really a leadership scoreboard. The
Yeah,
moment your team feels different, your client feels different, feels it, and that's the
correct.
part nobody puts in on report. So,
Yeah,
once again, sir, congratulations on that success.
thank you.
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah,
So you've led teams of 600 people, sometimes more, spread across multiple geographies. And
yeah,
honestly, what is the hardest part of leading at that scale that people sitting in smaller roles genuinely do not see?
yeah. So when you lead, I have led small teams. I mean, when I during at the beginning of my career. In
Right.
fact, I was a specialist when I joined Microland. And
Mm-hmm.
the way I was working, I had an opportunity to set up a small team for delivery. And when this
Right.
was observed by my VP, when he came over there, he
Right.
went back and like gave me promotion and asked me to move to Hyderabad to take over as
Mm-hmm.
customer support manager. This is something which happened in my career. And if you actually look at when you're dealing with small team, you can rely on one is proximity.
Mm-hmm.
There can be direct conversations and instinct. But when you're leading hundreds of people, or like I mean, hundreds of people who are spread across various geographies, what matters is like I mean, there is a change in the culture. Time zones are different. What could happen, and I have seen this happening, is even a
Mm-hmm.
simple message gets interpreted in 10 different ways across the
Right.
geographies, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and alignment becomes exponentially difficult um, than real decision making.
Right.
This is another experience that I had when we were dealing with people at scale and with through diverse geographies, right? Other thing people don't see is emotional weight of leadership when you're dealing at scale. Any
Yes.
major decisions that we take today, right, it could have effects on multiple things. Like I mean, it could
Absolutely.
affect career, it could affect families, it could affect customer relationship, and sometimes even business outcomes,
Right.
right? There are no choices, there are no, I would say, perfect choices, but sometimes only difficult trade-offs. And as leaders, we need to carry those decisions quietly, uh, because the team is requiring clarity from you and confidence from you, and not
Yes.
the
Yes.
uncertainty and just pushing the decision.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned at leadership at scale, less about smartest person in the room, but more about building the trust, empowering people, and creating the environment which will create win for others. That shift from being expert contributor to becoming an people enabler is probably the biggest challenge, and I would say a biggest lesson for me. Yes. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. That was an honest answer, and I think a lot of senior leaders listening to this are going to nod at this one. And I
Yeah.
also feel that the loneliness of leading at scale is something people just don't talk about. And
Yeah.
you've talked about having that, the bearing that responsibility alone and taking decisions that can impact a lot of people. And
Right.
that takes a certain kind of self-awareness. So
Yeah.
that's a wonderful job done, sir. Once again, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to our third segment, which is the quick fire round.
Sure.
So, Mr. Sudhir, quick fire round. I want short, sharp answers from your gut. Ready?
Sure.
Okay, the first one. The most overhyped technology trend right now.
Charu, I would say most overhyped technology trend right now is the idea that AI is going to magically solve every business problem overnight. That's what people expect.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, good one. Next one. Cost optimization or innovation? Which wins the CIO calendar in 2026?
I would say in 2026 the answer is both, because innovation gets you the breakthrough, it gives you the edge, while the optimization gets you budget scrutiny opportunities and budget
Right,
scrutiny.
right. I think it should be a balance of both.
Yeah, it should be balance of both. True.
Okay. Next one. One quality every great IT leader has that has nothing to do with technology.
Super. Charu, in my opinion, the one quality every IT leader has, and that is nothing to do with technology, is empathy.
Empathy. Wow,
Right?
that's so true.
Technology leadership is ultimately about people and not about systems. This is how I look at it, and this is what people believe. Right? The best
Right.
leaders understand how to listen, how to build trust, how to translate complex technical challenges into human impact. They
Wow.
know behind every project and whether it is project, whether it is outage, a deadline or a transformation initiative. There are people trying to do their job behind, and managing the customer and serve the
Right.
customer. So they manage the change. So obviously, empathy is one thing in my mind, very, very critical.
Beautiful answer there, sir. Okay, next one. The biggest change between leading a team in 2005 and leading a team in 2025.
Great. I have seen this era, so I can probably talk about the biggest change between leading a team in 2005 and 2025 is that the leadership essentially has shifted from managing presence to managing purpose. Today,
Wow.
we focus on managing purpose,
Purpose.
not just the presence.
Wonderful, sir. Okay, the last one for this segment. One word for next decade of enterprise IT.
Okay. One word is augmentation. By augmentation, what I mean is the next decade of enterprise IT won't be defined by technology replacing humans. That's
Right.
the fear which many people carry. It will be
Yes.
defined by technology expanding what human is capable of doing.
Doing.
Right?
Wow.
We are moving from systems that simply automate tasks to, decision making, execution. Right? AI AI automation and intelligent platform will be increasingly at force force multiplier for this in the coming future.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that answer, sir. I mean, this
Thank you.
round was so interesting. It came from your gut and it was your instinct that was talking. And thank you for being so
Thank you.
honest with us.
Thank you.
So, Tata Consultancy Services BSNL deal in 2024, the troubled DXC unwinding, the multiple ransomware attacks on Indian airlines and hospitals last year. Large IT contracts and IT operations are showing up in boardroom conversations like never before.
Yeah.
So, from your seat, what is that one IT related question boards are still not asking that they really should be?
Charu, I think one question the boards are still not asking often enough is what critical business capability have we become dangerously depend on without realizing it.
Wow.
Most board conversation today focus on what's the cost, how is the cost, cost trend, delivery timelines, cyber security incidents, AI adoption, vendor performance. All these are very, very important. But the deeper strategic risk is hidden dependency on, it could be on a single vendor, it could be small group of people, aging
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure. Sometimes it's also on outsourced operation knowledge, that's no longer with the organization, or
Right.
tightly coupled systems which people don't understand today anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody did it and they are no longer part of the system. It's not documented adequately. So the loss of, loss of knowledge on these tightly coupled systems where people don't understand. The real danger is
Right.
not always about cyber attack or failed contract itself. Like the danger, in my opinion, is discovering during a crisis that the organization has lost some operational resilience and institutional knowledge, which is
Wow.
leading to severe risk for the organization. We saw
Mm-hmm.
versions of this across industry recently. Large
Mm-hmm.
transformation programs became difficult to unwind. In fact, there were instances where people wanted to unwind large contracts, but they were unable to do that because
Right.
the business no longer understands the operational complexities.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what is my opinion.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. So, you know what? In common. I don't think boards are going to be able to dodge this conversation much longer. So, thank you so much for bringing this out in the front and highlighting this as a gap. So, last question for this session today is this Mr. Sudhir, you are a valued member of Directors Institute, World Council of Directors.
Yeah.
What made you reach out to Directors Institute and how has this experience been so far?
Okay. So, what initially drew me to Directors Institute was the quality of dialogue around governance and leadership.
Right,
I was looking for a space where the conversation goes beyond day to day execution and really focuses on how organizations are guided at strategic and ethical levels. And this
right,
is something which I uh, found directors institutes doing it very effectively. As
right.
leaders in technology, we very often get immersed in delivery transformation,
Mhm.
operational pressures, right?
Right.
But I always felt that the answer is the question that we need to ask is at one level higher. That's around the direction that we are setting up, the responsibility, risk, and long-term value creation. And
Mhm.
Directors Institute provided that broader lens, is
Right.
what drew my attention to this. Also, like, I mean, so far, you also asked me how do I feel
How
now
has
and
been? Yes.
what's my experience. So far, the experience have been very enriching. What stands out is the diversity of perspectives. You are
Mhm.
engaging with leaders from different industries. I went through couple of videos,
Right.
different stages of growth, different governance challenge. See what contrast this is bringing to me is, it challenges your assumptions,
Mhm.
and that leads to sharpening the way we think.
Right. Right.
Right. Overall, it has been meaningful experience and continues to shape, like, I mean, how I think about leadership, accountability, and long term impact.
Wow. Thank you so much for that feedback, Mr. Sudhir. Hearing it from someone with 30 years of operating leadership stepping into the governance space, that is the exact voice this industry needs at the board level. And, that's a wonderful place to bring this conversation home. So, thank you so much for today, for the conversation today, and I wish you all the very best for your future endeavors, sir.
Thank you. That was very kind of you to say. Uh, if there is any calm that comes through, I think it's less about certainty and more about having seen through enough cycles in the industry to know what most things that feel urgent in that moment
Right.
eventually find its place.
Wow.
Right? Over
Wow. That
time,
is
you over a period of time, like, I mean, you learn to respond these with perspective rather than just reacting to it. Right?
wow.
30 years of experience in IT has taught me reinvention is constant, panic is
Mhm.
optional. Right? Right? So I have learned to focus on what endures, which is people judgment and intent, and let rest move at its own speed.
Wow, that is wonderful,
Thank you.
Mr. Sudhir. I would
Thank
say
you.
thank you once again. 30 years in any industry is a long time, but
Yeah.
30 years in IT, where everything reinvents itself every few years, it is a different kind of long. And what
Yeah.
stays with me from this conversation is, as you pointed out, is your calm. That's a rare quality and an even rarer voice in this conversation. So thank you very much. And for everyone listening today, CIOs, founders, directors, remember this. The next decade of business will be won by the leaders who treat technology not as a function, but as a governance conversation. Cost,
True.
cybersecurity, vendor risk transformation, these are not IT problems anymore. They are boardroom problems. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Charu Mehra. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay ahead. Thank you.